disabilities, because what you've really done is you have carefully thought through all of the barriers that get in the way of learning that are necessary. One of the nice things about massively open online courses is that they don't have to be arbitrarily difficult. Often schools will have a programming course, a well-known computer science school will have a programming course that is legendary for its difficulty. Now, the difficulty of the course is not necessarily one of the learning objectives of the course. It's just this course has always been a legend, and it's going to be a legend this semester and next semester and the semester after that. But when you're teaching people online without solid preparation or background, you can't just make a course difficult to make it famous for being difficult. And so as a teacher, you have to really break the course down into what must I teach? What is the essential thing that I need to teach? Anything that's sort of there just to show off or to show fanciness, absolutely unnecessary. And so as I built courses that I've built all over, I don't put a lot of, and I just put out the absolute minimum that I think people need to learn. And so I think that's an important lens through which to think about accessibility is what is the smallest amount to get people to learn what they need to know. And then once you've built that, another thing that's really important is keeping students engaged. And a lot of online courses are actually quite boring because they're full of information and full of knowledge, but so is Wikipedia. And people don't just sit for hours and stare at Wikipedia. They sit for hours and stare at the television and watch movies. And what's the difference between Wikipedia and television? And the difference is when you're watching television, someone is weaving a narrative for you. Someone has a story that has a beginning and a middle and an end, and there's characters, there's development, there's all these things that get you brought into the story, which keep you watching. And Wikipedia doesn't do that. Wikipedia is just happy to give you facts. And so that narrative is important, especially when you are using as your primary vehicle for education written things like textbooks and slides and web pages, but then also recorded video and audio. And the interesting thing is, and I guess I sort of do this naturally, I don't really depend all that much on the video. I love to tell stories. I probably talk longer than I should, and I try to describe every picture on the screen. And visually limited students who've used my class, they say you tell good stories because they can't see the pictures. But as long as I can describe the pictures, then they can construct the pictures in their own minds. And I think another thing that leads to MOOCs as an interesting entree into making education accessible for everybody, regardless of ability, is the fact that if I can give the materials away for free, if I can give the book, the audio, the video, the interactive exercises can be used by not just the student, but mentors. And because one of the things that happens with students with various disabilities is there's often intermediaries that help that student and make sure that that student's questions get answered. And if they can't register for the course, or there's all this magic stuff, and the teacher can't see the same, the mentor can't see the same thing as the student, then this is a barrier for the mentor to be the best mentor that they can be. So by giving away free access to the materials, free access to everything that the students have, you're actually helping the mentors and local teachers. And so free materials is a very important part of it. And so I probably hold the world record. I've created by myself 11 MOOCs, 2 Coursera specializations. And right now in the process of, I have the Python for Everybody specialization, Web Applications for Everybody specialization. And I'm currently building a new specialization called Django for Everybody. And the interesting thing is this is the first specialization that I have built from the ground up as an online class that's going to turn into a Coursera specialization. So I'm thinking a lot. And and partly because of the wonderful people that I've met through Python for Everybody, people with limited visual ability are foremost in my mind, literally continuously as I'm producing the material. And I'm continuously thinking now, as a teacher, how can I be better? I mean, I'm told that what we did before without really trying very hard was very good. But I don't want, that's not good enough for me. What I want to do is be really good. And so this is my dream. And given that we're starting a hackathon, a hackfest, maybe some of you will figure out how to solve the problem that I want solved, okay? So here is the problem that I want some of you to try to solve. I can use audio and word narration to describe so many things, but what I find it difficult to do is describe like diagrams that are usually boxes. And so I have this urge to print diagrams on 3D printers. I only have one thing here that has 3D printing. It's a little cat. That's my Sakai projects. We built this. But if you can kind of see this little cat that I've got, think of this cat instead of being like a doll, think of this cat as being a TCP/IP architecture where you have a link layer and you got a link layer and then you got a network layer and a TCP layer and an application layer, and then you can feel with your fingers the physical relationship. And if I was to give you a narrative and a person with limited visibility could be handed this little sort of thing that's 3D printed, then that is the substitute for the one visual thing that I find it most difficult as a teacher to communicate with a person. And so this is not the exact thing, and I don't just want to make 3D print. What I really want to do is I want to make like 3D books, right? Hang on. I'll make 3D books, right? And I want to have 3D printed blocks with little lines on the blocks. And then what I want is like a way to make these, and I want to author them really easy. And then I could imagine in a 200-page book, I would need about 10 pages of raised diagrams. And what I want to make it is so that I can publish these either for free or maybe even on Amazon. You would buy these books, and inside of them would be 10 physical printed pages that are like an 1/8 inch thick with all kind of raised stuff on them. And then they would be keyed into the rest of the textbook. And it'd be a way for me to communicate. I find difficult to communicate to people with limited vision. And so that's what I want you guys to work on. Not all of you, but that's a thing that I've searched the web forever. Like, I search for words like cheap 3D printed textbook with technical diagrams. I Google for 3D printed pages, I just Google over and over when I'm bored, and I try to imagine that someone has done this. And I do see things that people have tried, and then they like make one page and then they quit, right? Like, we proved that we could do it. I want a thing where I can just upload some files to Amazon and they do it for me, and I can, anyone anywhere in the world can download this book of 3D supplemental printed pages for my Python book or my Python course or my Django course. If you would have looked at the diagram for my Django course, it's got boxes everywhere, and I'm like, how can I explain this to people with limited vision? And I need a 3D printer is what I need. So I'll stop there. I'm honored to visit with you. I'm excited to hear what you all accomplish in this meeting, and I wish you luck.
Thank you so much, sir. If you have time, can we ask the audience to ask you a few questions? Maybe 2 questions?
Of course.
Okay, does anybody have questions? Sure? No? Okay.
Thank you for this talk. It was very encouraging, and it was very interesting to see how MOOCs these days are used to provide the education. And I also have been thinking about it a bit. My daughter, who's currently in college, she's going to go into education field, And I think in the next few years, we'll see a large change in how education is delivered. So I wanted to, if you could talk a little bit about how education can reach masses. And I also think about a good mix of an online plus in-person event for places such as in India, where people in villages don't have access to good teachers. But if we can do a good mix of online as well as physically available, where they're working with the teachers, I think it makes a great model. So do you have any thoughts on that?
So that is an excellent question. Your model of humans being involved in teaching and not just like a dude on a screen like me doing all the work, I am fully supportive of that, and that's to some degree why from the first moment I started teaching Python, I gave everything away. My slides, my video, my audio, with an encouragement for people to take it, translate it, and do it locally. And so I really have always wanted to create an ecosystem of a distributed set of teachers, not somehow I'm the one, right? That I'm the best teacher in the whole universe somehow. I can't believe that that is true. What I want to do is show people through my skill in teaching, share my skill in teaching, and then get more people to be able to teach well. And then use me as like review and supplemental material. There's another theme in what you were talking about having to do with the large numbers. I talked a little bit about how you have to sort of figure out the pure learning objectives and teach nothing more than the pure learning objectives, and that's sort of what it takes to get it into more people. But there's all these side effects that when MOOCs first came out that everyone said, well, we're going to have so many people that will do big data and we'll be able to do artificial intelligence. I didn't believe it when it was said, and I still don't believe it. But I do think that there are a few things that the large numbers really greatly benefit, and I would have never guessed. And all the good things are the things you never kind of can guess in the beginning. But honestly, if I hadn't taught 2 million students, I would have never met 10 blind students, right? So when you meet 10 blind students, it changed your lives forever, right?